Hi, Dom. Well, thank you for joining us, and especially thank you for sharing, your project with other people that might be aspiring to do something similar. It's really helpful.
Cool, no worries.
Well, could we go back a little while and think about before you built this extension? What was your dream? What was when this was a figment of your imagination? What were you trying to achieve?
Sure. Well, we'd always had we bought the house. It's a little sort of cottagey house in Richmond, Kew, and we had always had a little extension that was there for the kitchen, but it was quite small, and it was one of those jobs where you've got the table up against the wall in order to eat and try and pull it out when you've got some guests coming. So it was a bit cramped. And then we thought, well, let's push out into the garden a little bit, so a bit of space, not a huge amount of space, but we sort of pushed out a little bit. My my wife's friend is a brother is an architect, so he designed a really great extension for us. Um, and then we just sort of cracked on with it. We had a builder that we'd used in a previous property, and we knew them to be reliable and all this. So and we started, and then I always wanted lots of light, and we have big brass windows looking into the garden, big brass door with a huge light panel in it. We've got two skylights actually in this ceiling. There's one over there, and this is the one where that you guys have shaded for us. The other window didn't really need shade, but this window was going to be very large. I think it's 1.5 meters across, something like that. It's large for the space anyway.
Mm.
And the dining table, was going to be sat where I'm sitting at the table here, sort of essentially directly under the skylight. So we thought, well, people's backs are going to get hot. People are going to have sunlight in their eyes when they're trying to eat their dinner. And so we thought, well, let's look at something to help with that. Also, we have a loft room which is at the top of the house, and again, there's a lot of light, and it does get hot up there. I think the solar gain is a big factor in that. So I thought, well, let's definitely not have a hot kitchen. We have these big windows to my right here, which do allow a lot of air to come in, and the circulation means that it pops up. The other skylight that opens, the one above does not open, so it led us to think maybe an internal solution could work really well for this, for some kind of blind. I didn't know much about it at the time. And so I just started looking around, and then we found you guys.
Well, thank you. And we're delighted you did, Dom. And it's handy having an architect in the family as well to
Yeah, very. Yeah, he
be
gave
on
us
your side.
he gave us some great advice. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So you were concerned about the heat gain and the light when you're trying to enjoy a meal, sit down and relax at the dining room table. And I guess I liken these large roof lights to performance sports cars, but those there's no brakes, so they're uncontrolled. So you were
yeah.
clearly thinking this through during the design and build phase. Um, so at what point did you start looking around for blinds companies? And can you tell the story of what options you looked at?
Yeah, so I think once the project had started, that's when I began to look. So I think they'd actually built some of the pillars and that, and then they started to they started to lay some joists in the ceiling, and I I guess when that starts to happen, the project really takes shape, and you get to see your room. So we hadn't done any kind of light study or anything before the project. So we were then able to really see where the light hits the new space, and I had a better idea of where the table would end up. and it was bag underneath where this skylight was going to go in, and the skylight wasn't going to go in for a good few months. But I could see that there was going to be an issue. So it wasn't actually in. We didn't have any treatment in the original spec. So I thought about maybe an external solution. I thought about an internal. I was just looking around, reading all this kind of stuff, and I think it became clear to me that I didn't. For some reason, I don't know. I mean, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed to me that an external solution was perhaps going to be a little bit more high maintenance. I was worried about something like wind and elements and all this kind of stuff. We're just by the river here. We actually get quite windy where we are. So I just thought, just keep it inside. It makes it simpler to me anyway. And this skylight wasn't going to be opening. So I thought I wanted a minimalist look. I didn't really want to know about the blind when it wasn't there. So just before they laid some of the joists, I said I think I gave you guys a call, and I said, well, what's available here? I want a really sort of minimalist, sleek finish, and you said, well, have they finished up? Have they completed the first fix? And I was like, they're doing it. I was looking out of my studio window onto them doing it, and you guys said, well, look, just have a look at this. This is something that you could do, but you have to do it. You basically have to do it now, today. They were out there. So we looked at this product, the Blindspace box, and it seemed to do what we needed to do. Keep it nice and sleek, minimalist. And the builders didn't really have too much of an issue about incorporating it into the thing. They hadn't used the product before, so they did have to read a little bit about it. But it was clear what it was doing. It was quite simple, really, at that stage, to build a sort of enclosure big enough for the blind box, the boxes themselves to slot in when it was all done, and that worked fairly seamlessly actually in the end. So they did charge me a little bit to change my structure, but that was fun.
Yeah, it's a very timely call indeed. A week later, it would probably been too late.
It would definitely have been.
Yeah, so these boxes we call they're Blindspace is the brand, and essentially creates almost a false recess which can be opened up to maintain the blind, but the blind disappears. So that it truly is minimalist. And Dom, you talk about external versus internal. It's true. Normally, external blinds benefit from rejecting the heat before it's gone through the glazing system. But of course, if it's ultra windy, then they're going to have to retract. And an internal blind, as long as you made some really smart choices when it came to choosing a fabric. But as long as you choose the right performance fabric that reflects the radiant heat back, or the solar energy back out at the same way it came in, then we're good. We sort of need about a 70+% reflectance, and I think yours exceeds that as well. So it'll do a great job even internally.
Yeah. Well, we've had a few heat waves this summer, and I've been really happy the way it's worked. It's really just been perfect. It's just totally sorted everything out.
Fantastic. That's great news. So could you describe the process when you went through with Chris, who's actually my brother? You'd have had a Teams call. You'd have had quite a bit of information coming in.
We had very good communication with Chris. He's always there. I mean, we had a quick call. He went through the whole thing with me. And it's very comprehensive sort of hand-holding, really, into getting the right product. I think it was obvious for this space. I'm sure that some spaces that are a little bit more individual, unique, and need a little bit more consideration, but I think I had a quite good clear idea of what I wanted once I'd seen what you were able to offer. So actually, it really didn't take very long. I think by the end of the first call, I knew exactly what what the right path was, and I think we just ordered it there and then whilst they were first fixing. So it was really simple. It was basically less than a few hours work from start to finish just to get the right thing. Then, yeah, Chris sent me some fabric samples. I mean, I could see the performance and everything, but I guess just to see it and the color, and we were going for you can see the white ceiling anyway, so it made sense to have a neutral white fabric. So yeah, all was very seamless.
Yes, so the fabric you chose was a Serge Ferrari Saltis Perform 92. What a mouthful! But it's actually a fabric you know internally or externally, and is when it comes to large horizontal roof light blinds, it's critical that it has a dimensional stability to it because normally the fabric is the first thing to go if it's not the right fabric. So this one is sort of perfect for your space. And went for snow white. Sounds Disney-ish, but it's just an ultra white fabric. So of course white reflects beautifully with that. You sound very decisive. I'm sure your project, you sound like the right man for your project to make extensions and things happen because normally it takes over people's lives. So well done to you.
Yeah, I mean it. I mean, it had taken quite a long time, for 18 months, just to put a kitchen up. But we had some quite fancy windows going in and all this kind of stuff. So there were long lead times with various things. And as soon as you get to August, it seems like the whole industry shuts down. And we had one of them. Then we had Christmas. So yeah, things got pushed and pushed. And there wasn't, I don't. Yeah, originally there wasn't a budget for blinds. There wasn't a budget line for blinds, so we had to sort of make that happen somehow. So all adds up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think with these, yeah, with certainly with this project, especially with the help we had from our architect, it was quite simple to actually work out what we were gonna do. And then as to how to do it, it's a small house, so even things like where does the extractor extract to, and where does the boiler fluid vent in an acceptable permitted place. That's all really complicated with these small properties, especially when you're taking quite a lot of space out for a big skylight.
Mm.
There were a lot of creative solutions down, along the way, of which this was one of them. So
No, well done, and well done for taking the opportunity fast, deciding quickly. So yes, it's be able to put the boxes in. It needs to happen early ideally during the design phase, but it's planned in. But if not, before the recess is created,
yeah,
so that these boxes can be housed and the blind disappears into the recesses. Um, so has before, I think the thing that everybody would love to see is how minimalist it looks and where the blind disappears to, as well as see it in operation. But before we go there, when you're having we've had some heat waves, and when you're sitting at the table, has it done what you envisioned it to
yeah,
achieve?
totally. Yeah, it really has. No, it's totally effective. I mean, it's completely effective.
Well, that's
So yeah,
music to my ears. Thank you.
yeah, no, really, it does exactly what we wanted it to do. So yeah, very happy.
And Dom, can
And
we
the,
take
and
a
the,
look at the
yeah, that's great. So I'm going to angle my screen up a little bit. So that's the finished product. So you're going to see actually from where we are, you won't see where it disappears into, but you'll see on the other side. You will. So, okay, I've just pressed the button now. So you're about to see something emerge. There it goes. There it is. Done.
fantastic. That is truly minimalist and very, very tidy.
I'll
Look,
bring it back. I'm gonna bring it back. There it goes. And then of course you can have that halfway setting. So if I press my thingy there, I think that just readjusts. There we go. So like I tend to roll with that actually most of the time if it's sunny. I tend to kind of just have it halfway, and then if it's particularly warm, just go all the way. But
well, Dom,
there
thank
it
you
is.
ever so much. That was a stunning sort of potted history of your project, and
Yeah,
done 18 months journey for you.
yeah.
Uh, Thank you ever so much for sharing.
No worries, Steve. Thanks for thanks for giving us this thing. It's great.